Welcome back YouTube, Sebastian Lemke aka Lampy YGO here, and I'm looking over so much regional qualifier data and also so many deck profiles from those regionals every single week, and that's why I figured why not make a YouTube video out of it as well every week. And therefore we are going to look at all the data from every regional for the recent weekend and also a bunch of deck lists from that week as well. And so every week we are going to be very well informed about the current meta game and the current state of the meta game. And first of all, big shoutouts to Septo, who is the creator of a very useful spreadsheet that I'm going to use for this as well. This pie chart has been created by him. I'm going to link the spreadsheet down in the description. And as you can see, the meta for this weekend is very widespread. And this is a weekend before the 250th YCS, so this might as well be our meta game for London or Los Angeles as well, or Bogota if you're in South America. And therefore we see there's 24 Kashtira decks. So still Kashtira being the most dominant deck, but it's super close. There's actually also 19% Sprite, and this number has been increasing and increasing. At the beginning, nobody really was on Sprite in the new format, and now Sprite is everywhere. As you can see, it's the second biggest deck in the room, so that's really interesting to see. And then from there on, it's getting smaller and smaller, a lot of small pieces to the cake. We see so many different decks, and I would say let's look at a couple of lists, because that's what this video is all about. And first of all, we are going to start with the most popular deck. It is Kashtira, and this is a list from the regional in Mödling, Austria, and it's a top 8 list. And let's see whether we can see any development in the deck. And I think the biggest development that I saw the last couple of days, or maybe the last week, is that people really are starting to pick up on Crossout Designator in Kashtira. A lot of people are on that, and a lot of people are using that card to successfully resolve their full zone lock combo. The only thing that I'm a little bit worried about with that is when you are already having your 3-card combo for the full zone lock, you're also going to draw Crossout Designator, making this basically a 4-card combo. That seems a little much to me. I don't know whether Crossout Designator is the solution to all of that, but to be fair, it is also a pretty good weapon. Just in the mirror match, just when he special summons a unicorn, you just instantly go Crossout Designator on unicorn, and that can sometimes also help. It can be good in the grind game as well when you're down to very low resources, and he just has one top deck that can basically cross out with the Designator. So I do kind of get behind the logic of the cards, but I don't know whether it's really the best. Also, it always makes up for very weird deck builds with like one Book of Eclipse, one Book of Moon, one evenly matched. That is certainly something that is very interesting. But besides that, there's still Denko in here. I saw that not a lot of people are still on Denko, but he is still playing the Denko in the side deck. So Labyrinth players still are having a rough time. But let's move over to the second biggest deck of the week. And as I said, that is Sprite. This is a list from Mulhouse in Belgium that came top 4 there at a very big regional. And it is not only Sprite, but it is Melfi Sprite. I know there's a discussion why we call this Melfi Sprite when there are only 4 Melfi cards in the deck. But the Melfi cards are really what are making this deck popular again. Basically, all of the topping Sprite lists are Melfi Sprite decks. And I do really understand why, because just with the just by resolving Melfi of the Forest, we are going to get access to Melfi Catty, and Melfi Catty in combination with Melfi Penny is multiple interruptions on its own, because with Kashtira, you bounce the Catty that already makes Melfi of the Forest negate one of their monsters and they can't attack anymore, and then you will also have the quick synchro effect on your opponent's turn. So Melfi Sprite looking really good, and I do understand why it's so popular. And also it's featuring Gamma in its main deck, even now with Emergency Teleport, so you use it as a hand trap going second, but also as an extender going first with the Emergency Teleport. And I think Gamma is just really good versus Kashtira, let's be honest. A Rise Hard effect, mandatory effect on Resolve Chain Gamma is something that a lot of Kashtira players are afraid of. That's why I think Gamma is a really good card in the current meta game. Of course, the double Zeus, nothing too crazy on there. Still a decently well hand trap package with triple Ash and triple Imperm, but not too big. Also playing Book of Moon, which is just, as I said, really good versus Kashtira as well. And yeah, that's pretty much all we have to talk about. Something that's kind of cool is Lambda in the extra deck. That shows you that Gamma really is a card right now that the Sprite players are valuing, because just ending on Lambda is such a scary feeling for your opponent. There's a Lambda sitting, and yeah, probably you are going to have Gamma in your hand when you are ending on Lambda, but still, it's not 100% sure. It might be a bait, but yeah, Lambda is always kind of cool, just resolving Gamma even though you have monsters on your side of the field. The third biggest deck of the weekend was Mothnic. Mothnic going stronger and stronger ever since the latest format, or like the latest release of the Forbidden Unlimited list. There are no Ishizu shufflers around anymore, and also Bestials are basically non-existent, and that's why this deck can strive again, and it is super consistent. That's what we always loved about Mothnic. There's Small World, there's Silent Mining, there's Desires, there's so many ways to get into your Circular, and when you are resolving Mothnic's Circular, that might be one of the most powerful one-card combos in the entire game. And therefore I think Mothnic right now, if there are still no Bestials, or if people are still not respecting this deck at all, might very well be one of the best picks. 1 second. Sorry for that, guys. To help me get better again, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, that's the only way we can help that. But yeah, as always, also a bunch of hand traps, so going second this deck is very powerful. And also featuring Denko Seka on the side deck, really interesting. By the way, this was a regional list from Antwerp, Belgium, top 4, it got there. And then the fourth biggest deck in the room is Branded. In the beginning, when we got our new format, everybody was like, yep, Branded is probably the best or the second best deck behind Kashtira, and let's be honest, it's going down in popularity. This is a top 4 list from the regional in Marburg in Germany. And we are following the trend of playing Dark Magician in Branded now. And also another card that is not only popular in the Kashtira deck is Crossout Designator. I mean, we saw Crossout Designator in Branded before, because you are forced to stop Ash Blossom on your Branded Fusion, otherwise you're not going to have a good time. But yeah, this is another list featuring it. And besides that, something that's kind of interesting is the Jinzo. You can combine Jinzo with the Jimmy Puppet lock, or like with the Branded Retribution in the Labyrinth matchup, which I really, really like. And also, of course, the Fusion deployment into Aqua Dolphin, ripping out the Ash Blossom. Just so many ways to play around Ash Blossom. This deck is required to play around Ash Blossom, so I definitely understand it. And Super Polymerization still seems pretty strong in the current meta game, and I do understand why he was main decking it. Now, the fifth biggest deck in the room is Labyrinth. This is again from the regional in Mödling in Austria, top 8. We got there, and it's actually a pretty interesting list, because the monster count for Labyrinth is pretty high, 11 monsters, due to the fact that he was on the Psy Frame Gear Gamma. I'm very sorry. Yeah, that's why the number goes up to 11. I don't really know whether Gamma is so powerful in Labyrinth, because I mean, yeah, Lady Effect in hand, your opponent... What is your opponent going to chain to Lady Effect in hand? Like, of course it's a good hand strap going second, I'm not going to debate about that, but usually people are not going to chain to Lady or a lot of the Heavenly Prison Effect in hand, so I don't think you can really use Gamma going first that much, so it's a pretty bold call to play it here in the main deck. And besides that, just the pods, just the powerful trap cards. Terrors of the Overroot is definitely the one I like the most, to be honest. It's really good versus Kashtira, because it does not only get rid of the monster on the board, but also sets a monster to the field which blocks their place. Of course, then Eradicator, of course, we always know that. This card is coming in Labyrinth. And yeah, Sphere Mode, I don't know about Sphere Mode, because a lot of Kashtira players are actually playing around Sphere Mode at the moment by not summoning out free monsters, but it is here in the side deck anyways. Now on to the next biggest deck in the pie chart, and it is from a regional in Amadora, Portugal, and it won the whole thing over there, and it is Naturia Runic, and this is honestly one of like my sleeper picks for this format. Naturia Runic is a really, really, really powerful deck. It only struggles versus some people that are starting to play Cosmics. Cosmics are super popular right now, and Cosmics are so good versus this deck. Also, Joel can be really powerful versus the deck. he's showcasing it that Droll is really good right now because he's actually playing in the main deck as well. And all around, that's a pretty tacked out list because he's playing Talent in the main deck, he's playing Droll in the main deck, he's playing Ash in the main deck. So that's all the flag spots because this deck, or like every Runic deck, has a problem that they cannot play so much non-engine because the Runic engine is pretty big. You have to fit in the Naturia cards, so you basically only have those 7 spots for non-engine, and there is not any more. But something really interesting to see is he played triple Magnamut and 1 Bestial Druiswarm, and therefore he was prepared for the Mothnic matchup. So maybe he played versus Mothnic, maybe those Bestials came in clutch, I can definitely understand. So, and also we see Dark Ruler no more. I really like Dark Ruler no more. Now that Sprite is getting more and more popular again, it just makes sense to play Dark Ruler again. You need to be prepared for this Sprite matchup, and therefore Dark Ruler no more, certainly a card I do understand siding. But let's move over to the next biggest deck in the room, and it's a pretty old school deck, or in terms of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Old school deck, and this is Sword Soul. This one is a top 4 list from the regional in Philadelphia in the USA. And do we see anything special in here? We see Forbidden Shadows in the main deck, which is somewhat interesting because this card has not been played for a very long time in Sword Soul. It was played in the beginning because you needed to dodge the Token Collector on your own turn as well. But Token Collector is nowhere to be seen in the current metagame, so that's kind of interesting. And besides that, we see Kurikara in the side deck. This card is really rising in popularity, and more people are playing it, and I definitely do understand why, because this is very good versus Kashtira, it's very good versus Sword Soul as well, so this card can really come in super clutch, and also that 1 Upstart Goblin in the main deck is somewhat interesting to me for sure. And yeah, that's all the list we are going to look at for this week. We are going to have the same format again next week. Let me know in the comments what kind of decks you would like to see, whether you like the format, whether we should continue with this. This format is called LAMPI Loves Meta, so if you also love meta, definitely make sure to leave a like to this video. See you very soon. Bye bye, guys.